Oh, from New York, you are listening to Extra Time. I am Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, Matt Doyle, David Goss, three-man weave. Here we go. It's already off the deep end here for everyone listening at home.
So I had to find something on Extra Time that I had said. So I had to go back through a bunch of episodes, and I was like, I thought I had hosted that episode. So I was like, oh, I'll just wait till the show starts with me. And if you go, I don't know if I should tell people this. If you do 30 seconds,
it's right to the jump.
You get straight to it.
Yeah.
So I had to listen to that. It's disgusting. If you hear like 10 of them in a row, we'd be going, It's gross.
Oh, boy. Pre-show meeting was, top of the heap today.
Flying high.
It's because we've been gone.
Yeah.
It's all saved up.
A good time of the year for vacation.
Yeah, got a DM says
Nobody wants to listen to
and playoffs?
Yeah.
You just want to watch playoff games. Come on, Doyle. That's the beauty of the format. Got a DM that said, Wiebe, the people need extra time. Then we got a tweet that said, quote, the playoffs are here, so we're going to stop doing our podcast, end quote. That was always an insane choice, by the way. Yeah, look, we didn't want to not be here.
The truth is that Anders had us all locked in his basement. It was really tough.
The real truth is that Wiebe had scheduled a special release show around Benji Kakanovic's new contract, and we couldn't get the timing
We
right.
were waiting for the word.
Yeah.
Apparently that happened like way earlier this year.
You knew.
Could have had a party.
Yeah.
These opportunities, they come and go. Not for us. All right, we're going through all of the first game of the best of 3 first-round series in Major League Soccer.
Let's go.
By now, you know how this works. There are potentially
Let's talk about
3
the format
games.
for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
you
there
got
are
time?
potentially 3 games, probably 2 in a lot of games. Best of 3 is exactly what it sounds like. Home teams ran riot in the first game, apart from one, Sporting Kansas City, going to St. Louis, laying the smackdown on City, who are now at 10.5.
Well, it's still sort of a home game because they're both like sort of Missouri, right?
Yeah,
Is that how that works?
I don't think so.
we don't want to get bogged
All
down.
right,
You don't want to get bogged down in the format.
I
but-
set the over-under at game 3s at 4.5.
I would take the over.
You would take the over. So you think at least 5 of the teams that are down 1-0 are going to win. Wiebe?
I think I'd take the over on it, too.
Yeah.
I just think home field advantage
took the under.
Home
I
field
thought that was
advantage
at 6
means
and
that much.
No.
Oh, that was at 4.5.
Bobby wanted to send it.
Well, we slammed that down to. We slammed the
Bobby's
under on that
working.
one. We slammed the under on that.
What's
one.
this? What's the home win rate in MLS?
It's higher than basically any other league. It's usually around 55%.
So in theory, the assumption is over half the home teams will win.
right.
7 of them are down. So the assumption is about 3 or 4 there should be going to the
Right.
next round.
Over the last few years, the home win rate in the playoffs has been, I think, above 70%.
Wow.
But bear in mind, this is the first time
That includes
since-
extra time.
That includes extra time, but bear in mind this is the first time since 2018 that lower seeds will actually have a home game.
Yeah. Also, away goals counted, in which losing 2-1 was different than losing.
No, I'm just talking like single elimination since 2019.
got
Yeah.
it. Okay.
So it's like we're entering kind of uncharted territory. What we do know for a fact for every remaining game in these playoffs must win.
Single.
Yeah, it's elimination.
All the way out.
Every game is an elimination
That's
game.
single elimination.
True. Sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
You can take me off.
All right, before we get to the best thing we saw, I have a choose your own adventure for you.
Maria just opened the trap door.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
I mean, we're in Harlem. The hook could come out.
By the way, we're back on Thursday, November 9th. So, yeah, would we like to be here on Mondays and Thursdays per normal with you, doing it twice a week? Sure,
And
we
dude,
would.
I mean,
but-
we'd be 120-mile ride up the Palisades on Tuesday. Got you? You there?
I'm so confused right now. Just know that we'll be back on Thursday, next Thursday. Also,
Weeby's got to get himself an e-bike if that's
He's on a motorcycle the whole time, and he's still sweating.
I had a choose your own adventure joke here about building a starting 11 of Halloween candy, or in light of National Sandwich Day, what are our top 3 favorite sandwiches?
I'm a savory over sweet, so I would do sandwiches.
Same.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Best of 3 favorite sandwiches in honor of the first round of the MLS Cup playoffs.
You go ahead and start, Dave.
I'm going to get kicked out, but caprese. Like fresh mozz, tomato, good oil, some basil, probably some roasted red peppers. That's the dream. On good bread.
That's kind of weak.
Yeah.
That's very
It's my dream.
I'm a little bit underwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then probably tuna melts are probably up there. Does that count if it's open?
Yeah,
faced
yeah.
melted?
Jeez.
Is a tuna
Yeah.
melt? Yeah, I'm not with that either. But could you
You guys
count
are
a
both
tuna
fake
melt?
people.
If you
You're
put cheese on that, is
basically
that a grilled
Vancouver's
cheese?
defense on set pieces right now.
You're St. Louis.
Listen, I scored 2
You're
goals.
St. Louis
so.
at home with a packed crowd. Just
You
a little,
guys,
too late on a
I
Sunday
want to
night.
hear your thing. And then probably hot pastrami with probably sauerkraut, but potentially cold.
So I will be specific enough to say like the pastrami on rye at Katz's.
Okay.
Right? Like that is a
I think pastrami queen is better, but I accept it.
Okay.
How much do we care about ratios in terms of meat to bread on
So that's the thing. Like
I would-
you have to unhinge your jaw
Yeah,
like a snake.
I would like there to be more meat on the sandwich than on my body. before I
Correct.
ate it.
Yeah, that's my only issue. The
So
meat,
that-
Unless I wanted to go to Montreal.
Then the other one is like a Godfather grinder. And I say grinder specifically because I'm from Connecticut. And so we understand the appropriate thing to call that type of sandwich from Carbone's in Torrington, Connecticut.
Of course. Those are only 2.
I'm gonna go a
was waiting for you
brisket,
to
a brisket sandwich from Kansas City
That's
is one of
really
my
good.
options. I just think you can put all sorts of things on that, but plain is probably your
But
best
is
way
it
to
on
go.
white bread?
No, you usually want like a Kaiser sort of roll.
Okay.
Something with
Like
a little
the
bit of
Z-Man.
a little bit of texture on top.
Z-Man is
Yeah.
money.
Yes. If you have the right brisket, anything is good. You put it on 2 pieces of bread, a little pickle. That's always going to be a winner. So I think I'll go with that. And then second, but always going to win because there's so many iterations, just grilled cheese. Because I think tuna melt fits into grilled cheese. I think there are a lot of ways to.
Some diners put tuna melt and then under the grilled cheese put tuna melt grilled cheese. And it's like, should I order both just to see how they compare? Because I'll do it.
All right. We've wasted enough time. What's the best thing you saw in round 1, match 1? David Goss, take us away.
I don't know that I should go first because mine's probably third on this list, but I'm going with the Ache goal. And that moment of the biggest signing in the club's history that was basically a failure last year that has flourished now into the essence of everything that's good about this club. It was their first home playoff game in 6 years. And the last time in 2017, remember they went to the Western Conference Finals, it didn't feel real. It felt like they kind of worked their way.
Real. With Elise Kyoto
Not
and
in that
Minotas.
Western Conference Finals.
Oh, that's fair.
So whatever it was, I think for the fans there to come out to have this moment and for it to deliver and for him to deliver and in all the ways he played and the team played was what we've seen at their best. Moving the ball, having options, being connected in possession like outside of Columbus, no other team in MLS. I just thought everything about that was the delivery you want. You come into the postseason, you've already won US Open Cup, like no pressure, but like as a fan, you go to a game, you want the moment. And they got the moment, then they end up winning, which is obviously great as well. But I just thought for me, this one felt so playoffs and just felt like what I'm used to of like this time of year. And it was cool to see one of the unexpected teams deliver in the big moment.
I'm still trying to recover from the Wilmer Cabrera erasure by you.
Right.
Not a real playoff run. Wow, Wilmer, come on, give him some credit. I just like how they use Ache. There are times where he is literally standing on the top of his 18 with his back to goal, and it's just an invitation to anybody around him who has the ball. You're like, move, find an angle, find my feet. I might just deliver it right back to you, but when I do, I'm probably turning and moving into
The crazy
space.
thing is all the other midfielders can function in that role too. Like if you look at Coco Carrasquilla, he started on the wing, but then he's coming inside, receiving the ball in those spots, and then they just understand that pattern of play where it's like, okay, somebody, because it's going to be one touch, little dink over the back line into, and that's how they got the third goal. That's how they got the goal I'm probably going to vote for goal of the year as well. It's so much fun to watch. To your point,
Third goal, not in this game.
sorry, second goal in this game.
It's like,
Well, third goal.
the third goal of the
Diego
game.
Luna
There's like-
eraser
yeah.
once
got
again.
it. Sorry.
The to your point about Ache, getting that goal and it being a sort of a culmination of everything that we've wanted from him as a player and everything that Houston has needed so desperately since Kalen Carr retired. Like he got I thought like that one
took me a
fell so
second.
flat.
I didn't. I enjoyed it. I just didn't know how hard I should laugh. Kalen Carr listens to this show.
Also, whenever you say one of their names, I have to do Kalen Carr, Kalen
Okay,
Kyle,
right.
and figure out which one we're talking.
But Ache had 150 touches on the ball in this game. He attempted 130 passes, completed, I think it was 122. All of those are season highs in MLS for every player, not just for the playoffs, but for regular season as well. He was all over this game, conducting it in the way that you would have hoped for when you signed this guy 18 months ago. He's one of the 3 best midfielders in CONCACAF history. He's played like it all year. He played like in this. I thought he was the best player I saw in round one.
And when you look at Houston in general right now, because I think there's going to be more building going on over the next few years, his individual quality is one of the things that elevates them from could be an okay team to like could be a cup contender. When you look at the way they're set up, there are other MLS teams that have set up this way. And the fact that he is a top 3 all-time CONCACAF central midfielder, Champions League player, Porto, Atletico Madrid, his level of ability is what takes them from could be fun to watch and could compete to like can go to wherever because he's that much better than other players at that position in MLS.
I was listening to all this and just sort of thinking back on Montreal last year, and it's unfortunate it hasn't been that way this year because of the tactics and his role, but wasn't there a little bit of Victor Wanyama last year in this?
Yep.
And just the high usage. It's in a different part of the field. Wanyama was further withdrawn, whereas Ache gets so much further
you said
forward.
His name though, because I kept thinking Victor Wembanyama.
Nah.
Victor, like it's just like killing me. I was like, that's not right. I was like, knew that was not right.
Yeah, I mean,
although Wembanyama would probably dominate as well.
I thought we saw elements of this same thing from Mauricio Pereira in the Orlando game as well, of just like the epic amount of usage and the way he receives the ball and
good
moves
breakdown
and almost
of that on wrap up.
Yeah, almost like advances his team all the way up the field.
I watched the wrap up.
Yeah, clearly.
Great job on wrap up to Doyle as well.
Man,
by the
you
way.
guys are compliment city over here. When we're going to be negative again, come let me know.
Gotcha. Yeah, look, great win for Houston. Tough one for RSL. Injuries, Justin Glad, obviously Chicho Arango, but that could change for game 2. We'll get back into that when we dig into that match and that series a little bit more. Doyle, best thing you saw?
I didn't actually choose this, but I my compliments to someone who wrote it in for me. Alvaro Barreal masterclass.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It's particularly that second goal he scored. I had questions about whether he meant that first touch when he pops it up to himself, and then the second touch he rifles it past Carlos Coronel to make it 3-0 and seal the game off. Bradley Wright Phillips assured me that was an intentional touch. Everyone I've talked to has assured me that was an intentional touch. And like, if that's the case, that is such a heat check to do in a playoff game. It was absurd. It was a wonderful goal. I thought it was a really good all-around performance from Cincinnati, who, when you're playing the Red Bulls, you're going to get into a street fight, and you need one of your skill players to step up and take a moment and turn it into quality. And Barreal was the first guy to do that. And once that kind of opened the game up, Lucho was able to cook a little bit, and Cincy were never under any pressure.
Also, coming into this game, Red Bull's strength is their defense. Their weakness there was Kyle Duncan.
Yeah.
So the game was set up where it's like, if Barreal can be the game breaker, ActuFoot Stats, I don't know what this is, put out a stat of top 10 chance creators in MLS this year. Barreal's 7th on the list. Barreal and Lucho are the only teammates top 10. So like Barreal's ability to be a difference maker in the attack is what has elevated this team from, I think, that middle class of like has a specific style. Lucho's elite. They've been really good in goal, all those things, to like, this is Supporter Shield winner, great points, and as well MLS Cup favorites. And so it's big that Barreal steps up in this moment, as Doyle said, but I also think like that was the expectation going in. So he was able to rise to it.
I mean, it's the luxury of playing in and around Lucho all the time in the attacking third, right? You're basically set up to give them combination opportunities. So it makes sense for a guy who was in the Golden Boot race and Lucho, for the guy who was probably providing a lot of the cutback balls or combination moments for him, to be in that same light. But it's also just a huge success story for Cincinnati in terms of player identification and development. Like, we were talking to Diego Valeri, watching this game and sort of marveling at these goals, and Valeri's like, you got to remember that Barreal in Argentina really wasn't anything. Like, he had played 15 games, I think, for Vélez before he came to Cincinnati. Yeah. Diego's like, this is the sort of guy, there's a bunch of these guys that might make it or might be a second division player because a sporting director or a coach or whatever the circumstance in their career, just it doesn't line up for them. And so for Cincinnati to spot talent, bring him in, but then also put him in the best situation to succeed is incredible. That's 2 straight years of 5 goals, 9 assists in the regular season. And to do that in a playoff game, I mean, that touch looked like that's like a college campus hippie in the middle of the quad hacky sack touch.
Yeah. And honestly, the first goal I like even better.
You like that? That was for you. That was only for you, Dave.
I almost like the first goal better just because the like one touch movement, and then as soon as he plays that square ball to Junior Moreno, he's off through the lines, and Red Bull didn't go with him. And of course, this was also like Lucho never touched the ball in that sequence, but it is also a perfect example of how influential Lucho is just by being on the field, because Drew Yearwood is shaded 3 or 4 steps closer to Lucho than I think he would be if it was any other player out there. So Junior Moreno has like he nobody around him, and he's able to just weight the ball right into Barrial's run, and then a hard low finish to the back post.
Wasn't it Dambaji that was running in that same channel?
It was that, and that led to the.
And Barreal was just like, no, I got this one. Let me have that space. Let me just take this little spot from you. Credit to Dom. He had a
Congrats to Dambaji on citizenship.
Yeah, right. He had a good game.
That was a cool video.
And I mean, he caused the second goal.
Yeah,
100%.
He was running in the channels. He was very. I do expect Bupenza to be back in the lineup.
I thought you were about to go into Dambaji call-up territory. I thought
no, I'm not about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll wait for Kalen to have that.
Can I split a hair on this?
Yeah, split it.
Because I'm a big hair guy.
Yeah.
I think on Barreal, less talent ID, more development. Because the group that brought him in to be a 10 or a winger, had no plan. And as Diego Valeri said, there are a lot of Barreals. They spent a bunch of money. It was the group that took over that found a position for him, made him a winning player, and will probably sell him for a profit.
To an Ajax team that's trying to avoid relegation at this point.
Well, they're saying Bundesliga could be in too.
Yep.
I don't know. He's one of those players that you just
the whole league's just going to sign him?
The whole Bundesliga.
That is a very MLS rumor.
Very MLS. Yeah. Who's got discovery rights? What do you think? Mönchengladbach?
Probably LA, maybe New York. Who knows? Yeah.
TBD. All right, best thing I saw. Sporting Kansas City going to St. Louis and out-citying City. Second balls, aggressive play. We don't need the ball. You take it. We'll go direct as soon as we get it. I mean, it was what you would have hoped Peter Vermees would turn to, especially with Russell and Tommy out, but what you can't always assume because Peter's been so dogmatic about having the ball for so long now, which is incredibly interesting because he was the one in Kansas City were the team back in the day that sort of introduced the high press, second balls are going to be our bread and butter, go direct, get into the heads of our two big, our target wingers essentially, and then trap teams in their own third. So like a little bit back to the roots sort of here.
Some of that, there was less crossing out of this Sporting Kansas.
Correct.
There's less crossing out of everybody than that original high press Sporting Kansas.
It was
City
Sapong
team.
And Kai on the wings.
Yeah.
So
Why would
personnel
you
was
not?
a big thing.
But like, even then, Kansas City pressed to win possession. They didn't necessarily press to go direct. They could, and there was a lot of that in this game. But we also saw in this game moments when St. Louis was dropping off and letting Kansas City possess. Kansas City weren't taking chances, but like, okay, if you're going to let us knock the ball around, we'll do that, and we'll get our fullbacks up. And when this team gets their fullbacks up, we've seen it basically the entire second half of the year. They're a handful. And honestly, St. Louis had no answers for any of it. I thought they looked flat isn't the right word, just like kind of overwhelmed.
What?
I don't know. You just
we're going to talk about these games.
Yeah, you want to do that?
No, I don't care. I'm like I can do it whenever.
Yeah, well, let's save it.
Just let me know when you throw me the ball because I'm going to pull up from mid.
Let's save it. Well, the second ball's up. You're collecting. Here we go.
Oh, the only use I have on the field is trying to win headers because I'm the only one who goes.
Weren't you a goalkeeper last night?
I had to play goal last night for a team I was subbing in for. You should watch. Ball goes up in the air. Kalen Carr walks away.
Oh, yeah.
I come into the scene and be like, I'll challenge for a 50-50 and an unnecessary
Kalen learned
game.
that lesson a long time ago.
He's like,
Kalen's Messi, you're Rodrigo De Paul.
100. That is a compliment. Yeah. I am Victor Ulloa. I am Victor Ulloa in that scenario. Shout out, Victor.
All right. Before we get into the nitty-gritty on these Game 1 reviews and Game 2 previews, look, everybody's talking about it. We got to just at least have an area to air this out. How do you feel about the 3-game format as it stands right now?
I had a lot of fun the first game of the first round. So I thought most of it was competitive. I thought it was good soccer. Atlanta was, I think, the biggest underwhelming team. But that was going to happen no matter what. So
I thought Atlanta did the right thing.
that doesn't change the fact that I didn't enjoy watching them play in that game. But I think now the table's all open on game like if Atlanta goes out and has a fun game and they win and we go into a game 3, I think that's a positive. I think that's what I want. So I think so far I've enjoyed the soccer I've seen.
It hasn't been what many said it might be, which was away teams playing for PKs, which is always a recipe for failure. But I will say, having been open to this and enjoying it just as much as you did, I do wish that the goals and those goal moments felt a little bit more.
I disagree.
Yeah, I'm with you.
7 home games, insane goals, and
No,
you've got
agree.
KC putting in goals, and you've got Diego
Sure.
Luna scoring. But what I would say is I felt there was a more chance that we were going to see the team that conceded play versus single elimination.
Well, we've got to talk to John Tolkien about this.
J-Mine will say anything, and he's been under your skin like an NYCFC player.
I love
for
John.
He's
He's like my favorite personality in Major League Soccer. But he comes out and he's like, "Yeah, well, when teams go down 2-0, they just kind of you got to pack it up." I'm like, "No, John, no, that's the exact opposite, dude. Lose 5-0, it doesn't matter. Throw everything at it. If you get 1 goal, game on. If it's tied, win from the spot."
I thought Red Bulls were good coming out of halftime too.
Yeah.
I thought that they had chances to make it 2-1 and get back in that game. They're underwhelmed or overwhelmed in that series, and they came off a midweek game. Was that the Sean Nealis sub? Was just like protect him?
I think so. I don't think he's hurt.
Yeah. So that's like an odd one, right? Where you wouldn't see that in single elimination.
Actually, no. Nealis is hurt. Mark Fishkin had it.
There you go.
There's something going on, but he was running at training.
Oh, Wiebe's been at training.
Oh, no, Mark Fishkin has. So we're reading between the X leaves
Yeah,
here.
Edelman, Nealis, and Omir Fernandez are all questionable. Nealis, groin. Edelman, upper body. Omir,
and
ankle.
Edelman did not start.
No,
he was one of the
correct.
few
But Edelman was again participating
And that's like
in
that
training.
goes back to that first Barreal goal.
Yeah.
If that's Edelman instead of Drew Yearwood, I think Junior Moreno maybe gets closed down a little bit more quickly.
But I would say in all of this, I think the advantage was to Cincinnati for being the best team all
I agree
season,
with
that
that
they
part.
played Red Bulls on short rest after a wild card game at home.
Yes,
And now they're up 1-0.
I said from the start that I like that teams that got it done in the regular season have what seems like a very sizable advantage, which is you get to win at home, which all but City did. And now you go on the road where you will still be the better team, pretty clearly so, I think, across the board here, and have an opportunity to shut it down. And if you can't do that, whether it's in regulation or PKs, well, hey, you get to go home again. What I mean about the goals is that maybe it's just the wistfulness from like years past in single elimination where we were seeing goals and literally falling over each other while watching the games in the green room or whatever place we were at the time, where it just felt like that was, I don't know, so it felt like every goal was something to be like etched down in history in some way. Like the moment, the feeling, all those things. And I'm not saying these goals didn't mean that.
I mean, outside of the fact that Vancouver refused to defend on set pieces at some point, I'd say most of these, I think we could all name every goal that was scored.
Yeah.
And I think you look at the reaction in Cincinnati. I mean, in Houston, when Arthur hits the crossbar in stoppage time when McMahon's off his line, the stadium's like about to explode. I think you had a lot of that energy, which is you're seeing your team win in the playoffs, and it's awesome.
You know what it reminded me of, and it just popped in my head, so I might mangle this. I used to love the Confederations Cup because the games were important, and teams win out, and they like the best international teams in the world went out and they really played for it. But they weren't as important as the World Cup or World Cup qualifying or the Euros or Copa America. So there wasn't that same amount of tightness, of caginess that you would see in the biggest games in the world. And that's it made the Confederations Cup insanely enjoyable, produced incredible soccer. And that's what these first games felt like to me. These games are clearly really important, but it's not quite as live and die as a single elimination knockout or even a home and home. So I think it led to more enjoyable, open, fun soccer, and I had a blast watching it, especially because I think the regular season was a little tight, a little cagey this year, and that was nowhere to be found other than Orlando, Nashville, and I guess Atlanta's performance in the first leg of these best of 3 series. So I enjoyed it. I will still always be a single elimination March Madness style tournament guy.
How do you go from being a shield truther to a single elimination?
Because they're two different They're two different contests.
Well, the beauty is, and I think
But your DNA has to remain the same through both.
No, like I could understand.
he's a chameleon.
I could
Yeah.
understand like the different formats of like the supporter shield is like the best team over the course of 8 months, and you need to bring that consistency and that high level week after week. Whereas like single elimination, it's just a sprint. That said, I loved the Leagues Cup format too. Like that was a lot of fun to me.
This is such a Connecticut. He's New York.
I was like wondering how many Big Easts
Yeah.
Connecticut won. Like, was it not that
No,
many?
It was a lot.
He's actually a Yankees fan this
It is
year,
a
but
lot.
call us back next year when he's a Red
Yeah,
Sox
I was like,
fan.
if anybody
We took
should
a-
be
we took a
Shield
decade
trooper, it
off.
should be a Kansas fan.
We took a decade off from that conference, and we still have the most titles, both regular season and tournament.
Wow, that was said with the utmost of smug. Just overwhelming.
Adding one more of each this
now,
year.
Look, to be fair, now it is not single elimination, but there is only one game in the entire playoff structure that's not.
We're going to get to talk
win
about
and go
games
home.
now?
Yeah, let's do it.
I love not talking about structure anymore.
Sweet. All right, straight into the games, and we're going to go in order of timing on these. So, like, what's coming next? Next is Red Bull Cincinnati at Red Bull Arena.
I
All
will
right,
be there, by the
Saturday,
way.
November
Say
4th,
what up.
7 p.m. Eastern Time. Cincinnati, of course, leading the series 1-0 after a 3-0 win. Let's do it this way. What was the story of Game 1 for you, Dave?
Big mistakes from the Red Bulls. We talked about the moment of brilliance from Cincinnati, but you had massive mistakes from a New York Red Bulls team incapable of scoring right now, and they don't have those openings. You look at the header back from Reyes, then Coronel has to come off his line. For Lucho's goal, you talk about Yearwood's spacing, you talk about Duncan's defending 1v1. It was a team,
and Reyes's.
yeah, it was a team that needs to be perfect to keep the baseline where they are in touching distance, that made big mistakes. And then credit to FC Cincinnati that they have the quality to take advantage. But I think that's the glaring thing that comes out of this first match.
I'm with you on that, and it also goes both ways. It's Red Bulls made big mistakes, but they couldn't force Cincinnati to make big mistakes, and that was the story of the wild card game.
Yeah.
That Charlotte was just like, cool, we're super naive, we're disorganized defensively, we will make the mistakes that trigger your attack and make you look like a different team than you are in the final third. And Cincinnati just are not going to make those mistakes. You are not going to press Wobodo off the ball. You're not going to have like Matt Miazga play a blind ball into a channel when the fullbacks are already up. The organization, the tactical nous, the experience, it's not going to happen. So I don't see a path back for the Red Bulls because they aren't good enough in the final third. Cincinnati can get 3 shots on goal and score 3 goals because they have difference makers, and the chances they create are going to be at a much higher percentage.
I understand that, but the Red Bulls have not made mistakes this season. They are one of the best defensive teams in
No,
the league.
fair.
If Sean Nealis is
But
healthy.
they don't have to make a mistake for Cincinnati to score.
Understood, but they did in the last game. And if they hadn't, we
Sure.
don't know if Cincinnati would have been able to create chances. Now you go on the road. That changes things a little bit. Is it Bupenza? Is it not? Who knows? So I think there's more elements in this. My feeling is coming out of a game in which you've shot yourself in the foot, and like I said, I thought went down 2-0 and actually played fairly competitive. There should be a feeling that you're in this series if you're the Red Bulls and that you should win.
I mean,
a home
they are
game.
in the series. They win at home.
Yeah. And I feels like you're writing them off.
I just don't trust them to do the thing they have to do to win a game, which is score the ball.
Yeah.
I don't see it because I think Cincinnati goes to Red Bull Arena and they just say, cool, we know where the margins are for you. You can't do this. If we don't play expansively in any way, if we don't play into your hands, if we don't let you tilt the field in a way that hurts us, you won't create chances. Like, if I'm Pat Noonan, I'm like, cool, Luquinhas shooting under pressure from the top of the box, do it all day. All day. Frankie Amaya falling down like at a bad angle. You can have 16 of those shots, which the Red Bulls had, and never look likely to score. Ever.
Yeah, it's fair.
So
It will be interesting to see how much the Red Bulls not press, but like are pushing themselves at the start of the game, which is like the classic Red Bull story in the playoffs is like from minute 1, they know they need to score. They throw all their numbers forward. They obviously continue to play Barlow and Manuel. They have targets. They can throw the ball in the box, knockdowns. I don't know that that's positive, but I think it might shift the field. They don't have to do that. The nice thing about the format, which is it's not on aggregate, is like they just need to win. They don't need to score
100%.
X amount of goals. So they don't have to play that way, but they could choose to, and that would probably catch Cincinnati off guard.
All right, let's flip to game 2.
Not if they listen to extra time, though.
No,
Then they see it
it's
coming.
over. It's not over. I'm over-exaggerating that. How did the Red Bulls do it in game 2? Doyle, what would it look like?
So dominance from the center backs has to be. Well, let's start even further back. Carlos Coronel's got to show up. I thought he could have done better on the first goal. The second goal, I don't put on him. That's on Andres Reyes.
Is it on Reyes or is it on Drew Yearwood? Drew Yearwood is facing the field, seeing what's coming. Reyes is retreating. Some sort of communication. It's a bad clearance header.
It feels like there was communication and Reyes just played.
Yeah, that might be true because, I mean, we're just reading the body language tea leaves here, but Drew Yearwood was
I think Andres Reyes
very frustrated.
Had his worst game of the season.
Yeah.
So, but
Tough time.
Coronel has the guy we saw down the stretch in 2021, that version of Carlos Coronel, he needs to come back for this game because Cincinnati's going to get their chances. I know they only had 9 shots in leg one. Like, they know how to carve out good chances and they know how to get numbers forward. Your goalkeeper has to show up. The other thing is Reyes, and whether it's Nealis or someone else, and like that is a huge question mark.
Yeah.
When they win their 50-50s in their aerials, they have to be better at directing those clearances to parts of the pitch where the Red Bulls have numbers up. Because like that is the first page of the Energy Drink Soccer blueprint is like you direct, as a center back, you direct those aerials into places where it's a 50-50 or a 60-40 for your team to win and go direct. I didn't think there was much of that until it was already 2-0. Once it was 2-0, the center back started playing better. And after that happens, the whole team plays better. But it was too little, too late. And as you said, Cincinnati don't make the types of mistakes that Charlotte made in the wildcard round. So I do think it all sort of comes from the back. If you do that, you set up the prerequisites that you need to have in order to achieve victory. What is left up to the gods, to fate, is whether or not any Red Bulls forward can put the ball in the back of the net. I'm betting against it. But we've seen it happen. Yeah.
It feels like the head coach of the Navy football team talking. Victory will be achieved if we do this.
That's good. That's good. Well, we get the scouting report from the kids of the cafe in Brooklyn, see what they're saying about maybe it's a Tom Barlow game, TBD on that one.
I think that's part of what hurts with the Barlow-Manuel part, which is a lot of times you have a 10 and then 2 wingers who come inside, and there will be an overloaded triangle somewhere that header can go to. And Barlow and Manuel are both kind of going to hang a little bit higher. And there is a hole
Barlow
there.
is dropping really
Well, he's trying, but I think that he feels like he has to.
Yeah.
It doesn't look natural. It doesn't look comfortable. I like when Omir comes into that space. I think he looks comfortable
He's
with
hurt
that.
too, remember.
Which is big. Sean Nealis is massive because he has, I think we had a lot of convo about Defender of the Years and he was in that conversation. I think he elevates Reyes' game and that hurts. It looked like while they went to a bit of a back 5, it kind of looks like they might slide John Tolkien in there.
I mean, because Hassan Ndam is also hurt. So the Red Bulls, and if it's Tolkien's a better soccer player than any of the other options, but he's worse at winning those aerials that I was just talking about. And like, again, that is the first page of the blueprint for how the Red Bulls want to play. And if they can't do that, I have no idea.
And the other part I worry about, which is, I think at some point they'll have to throw numbers forward in this game. You would trust Reyes and Nealis to hold their own in a 1v1 battle against Vasquez and Dambaji. I don't know if you'll feel the same way about Tolkien and Reyes. Now, do you have to feel like you have to be up a number even though you're chasing a goal? Do you have to pull another number back, or are you susceptible in those transitions?
There's no chance that Sean Nealis doesn't start this match, by the way.
I think you're probably right. But that might
second Long Island tattoo.
Strong Island. Come on.
That might not end up being a good thing because if he's trying to run down Vasquez or Bupenza or even Lucho in the open field, like that is tough, especially because it's a groin injury, so you have to turn. But anyway, 2 points I wanted to make really quick. One is that since they play with a back 3, and it's really hard to press a back 3 with a front 2. It's really hard. Like Jim Curtin's talked about it a bunch, talked about how the any back 3 gives his Philadelphia, including Cincinnati's, gives his Philadelphia Union trouble because of the numbers game. And 2, and this is a point Caitlin Carr made in the studio before the game, is like against a lot of teams, you get to that Red Bull style of soccer and it's going to be car crashes or fights, all over the field. And a lot of teams are kind of intimidated by that or just not up for it or going to try to play through it. And Cincinnati's like, oh, cool. Yeah, we can do this. And we have Lucho Acosta. And we have Alvaro Barreal. And we have Aaron Bupenza and Brandon Like, it's just too much talent.
And Don Baji stepping
Right.
to Long Island and Sean Nealon.
So let me ask you this, and I think I feel this way about all the games, but here specifically because you guys have mentioned Bupenza a couple times. Your team won the first playoff game. Would you make a change to the lineup that isn't forced?
You may not have a choice because Baji came off with something.
Okay.
I haven't seen any updates on that one, but I don't think I would. If Baji could go, I would stick with Baji.
Like talking Seattle, talking.
I go with Bupenza.
What about SKC? Like, do you think in general you're holding the same lineup that won, or does that not matter to you?
I think at Red Bull, and given the way Baji impacted the game physically, I might think about starting with him. You've got all second half. Literally, you could bring on Bupenza at 45.
Yeah.
You could see what the game state is. If it's open, it's Bupenza all day because he will just carve up the Red Bulls. But
is your thinking, Doyle, that you need him to win MLS Cup, so you want him to be mentally locked in?
Yeah. He served his punishment. He was benched for decision day. He came off the bench for this one. Baji played really well.
Got a yellow card, so he was ready to mix it up
right.
too.
Baji's a pro. Baji knows what the pecking order is in the front line here. He's not going to pout. This is the time of year where you start putting your best players on the field if they can go.
There's good problems.
Yeah.
Very good problems.
First world problems
Cincy.
for Pat.
Yeah. Who wins? Series over? We going to game 3 here.
I think we're going to game 3. I said it at the start. I thought it was a lot of. Injuries are going to be a big part of that, right? If Sean Nealon can't go, I think that's massive. But if it's the group that I think is, potential for Red Bulls, again, I think they came out of last game saying we can play at this level. It'll be their house. We know Red Bull Arena jumps at this time of year. It'll be cold. It'll be set up for it. And yeah, the question mark is who scores goals, but it's happened for them in the past. Like every time we've talked about Red Bulls this year, we're like, they're dead. It's over. And then they just are able to eke over the line. And I think they're going to be able to do that, at least in this game.
Game 2 ends the series. Cincinnati, second straight year in Red Bull season at Red Bull Arena. They matched up there July, I think it was. And Cincinnati had a hugely rotated lineup and 1-2-1. I'm not saying that's indicative of this game. I just think Cincinnati has too much.
So if they beat Red Bulls and play Philly next round, it'll be the exact same as last year.
Mm-hmm.
You got to love having a league with the same teams. And so then you could, it just fascinates me. Hey. Doyle?
What do you got?
What's your prediction?
I think if the Red Bulls were healthy, I would say they hold serve at home and send it back to Cincinnati. But even if Nealis plays, it seems like he's not going to be 100%. Edelman, it seems like he's not going to be 100%. And we saw what that drop-off meant in the first game. And when you give a team as good as Cincinnati a little bit larger of a margin, you're dead.
All right, FC Dallas hosting the Seattle Sounders.
Can I?
Yeah.
I was just going to throw out there, I'm doing a full New Jersey day on Saturday.
Oh, yeah,
Rutgers football to Red Bulls playoff.
Wow.
Oh, sounds like it's going to...
Is it taking in an ambulance home?
I bleed Hackensack Meridian.
So Rutgers, Ohio State, Red Bull, Cincinnati. This could be a tough day for New Jersey.
Yeah.
Oh,
NJ, Ohio.
It could be a couple home L's that you take.
Someone grab some peanut butter, throw some chocolate around it. Let's go to New Jersey.
I don't know what that means.
It's a Buckeye.
Oh, okay.
A Buckeye dessert.
I never knew that.
Yeah, me neither. I learned it at a.
Kind of wish I still didn't know that.
I
don't know how
peanut butter and
Ohio doesn't get to claim peanut butter inside chocolate. That's like. No.
This is the type of thing where like you would claim some white bread for Kansas, but like they can't.
Everybody has it. FC Dallas, Seattle Sounders is the nightcap on this Saturday. 9 p.m. Eastern time. Of course, all these games on MLS season pass on Apple TV. Seattle leads the series 1-0, 2-0 winners in match 1. Awful news from match 1. Alan Velasco, FC Dallas has confirmed, has torn an ACL and LCL and will be out long-term undergoing
What did
surgery.
you think of the stumble from Alex Roldan that led to the injury?
I didn't go back and rewatch it. Maybe I should have for instant replay. In the moment, it didn't feel like anything more than a stumble, but maybe I'm misremembering.
He's out of control and he's taking out whatever's in front of him so he doesn't get beat back the other way.
He has basically just been fouled and stripped from behind by Paul Areola.
Yeah.
And he's selling the foul.
Yeah. But I don't think it's malicious in its violence.
Yeah.
But on first watch, I was like,
I understand.
We've all done that, and that's a bit of a BS move.
Yeah.
But It's not a red card.
I understand why Dallas fans are incensed.
Yeah.
What was the story of game one outside of the Velasco, I guess? Because that is, it's a huge loss.
Seattle being super professional. Like they gave up the 2 big chances inside the first 20 minutes. And obviously if Jesus Ferreira scores either of those, it's a different series.
Those were one of the biggest stories of match one is missed chances. It's not goals scored. We're going back to like, how did the goals feel different? The misses felt the same. I will say that.
I will say that. Or I will agree with that.
Doyle will be the first one to say that in response to you saying it.
I'm a real Buckeye. I just thought everything after that first 20 minutes was like ruthlessly efficient and professional from Seattle. They were knocking the ball around. They didn't turn the ball over via Dallas pressure. And the press was the only way Dallas had to create chances after Velasco came off. So once Seattle settled in, they were able to get both their fullbacks forward. And usually when one of those is Nuhu, that's a bad thing. Nuhu was awesome going forward in this game. Like even before he had the assist on the second goal, I thought it was the best 2-way game he's ever played. Christian Roldan's a difference maker. All that said, I still think the best version of the Seattle team is going to have Nico Lodeiro and Raul Ruiz Diaz playing more prominent roles than they did in game one.
Did you think that the Christian Roldan penalty was a
100%? I can't believe anybody complained.
Well,
about it.
Nico Estevez is the one complaining, the coach of Dallas.
Is he complaining about the throw-in or the contact on the
contact?
foul?
He is saying that Roldan basically played Farfan.
Yeah.
Oh come on!
Don't
we don't
don't
even
step in.
No, we don't.
Come
need
on,
to-
don't do it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I agree.
But saying all that, one of the things about Christian Roldan is he takes a 50-50 moment and he turns it into at minimum 51-49 because he's always willing to throw his body in. He's always pressuring you, so you do make a mistake at some point. This is what Christian Roldan has done for this team over and over, which is Seattle's baseline is really high. And I think professional is a good word to use, which is like when you look at the Western Conference this year, in this playoffs, I think you see how a lot of teams can lose games for themselves. Seattle probably won't beat themselves. Then you start talking about, okay, what are their winning moments? And a lot of those come from Christian Roldan, whether it's just making a selfless run to pull someone out of position, winning a ball he shouldn't, battling for a ball that someone's trying to shield out, which creates the play, making the run off the ball for a throw. And like, those are Christian Roldan winning plays. We hadn't seen it when he was hurt. He's been a huge loss for them over the last year at times.
Anders is rapid fire texting us FC Dallas slander as we do this segment.
And I think that was big because they created one good chance in the first half, but otherwise I didn't see where the goal was coming from.
Agreed.
Seattle. Once they score, the momentum changes, the feeling changes, and then they start to create chances. And I think also you have a Dallas team that goes in at halftime and goes, Velasco's not here. Like, not trying to knock anyone, but like Nico Lodeiro and Raul Ruiz Diaz came off the bench in this game. Liam Frazier was the sub for this Dallas team. They don't have the options. They don't have the danger in this team at all. And then you're losing Velasco and going back. And I think you had a Dallas team that sort of saw that when they looked in the mirror at halftime, which is tough. And it's tough because they had the 2 chances. You go on the road, you're trying to steal a goal, you're trying to put the pressure on a Seattle team that has struggled to score goals down the stretch. Jordan Morris hasn't scored in, a month and a half, 2 months. Like, you're trying to generate all of that angst, and your DP, your leading scorer, one of the Golden Boot leaders last year, one of the World Cup starters for the U.S. men's national team, he gets 2 chances and he doesn't put them away.
The chances were interesting too. The first one's like you want him to lift it a little bit. The second one, it's like he was thinking about the first and he lifted it too much and skied it over.
Yeah.
The stats are very clear with Dallas and Jesus Ferreira. They've won 1 game all year when he hasn't scored, and that was on decision day. And Bernie Kamungo was a star. And to go back to sort of the feeling of maybe this just isn't our day, Bernie Kamungo's injured and he's on the bench. Now, I believe he came on
77th minute.
But, you didn't have that option. And when you miss 2 chances or not, is point blank too harsh?
I mean, he's 1v1 with the keeper on both of them. They're both really, really good chances. And I'm sure Jesus Ferreira spent that evening kicking himself for not finishing at least one of them.
All right, so Seattle up 2-0. Actually, one more thing before we go there. The interesting thing about the Roldan penalty to me, and I think Estevez was frustrated about the positioning of the throw-in as well, is that it felt to me like Larrea-esque in that he ratcheted up the emotionality of the defender ahead of the moment of a potential challenge. Like Marco Farfan gets spun in a circle, and
Marco Farfan, by the way, very good defender.
Very
good all year.
Very good. One of the best left backs in the league. But at that point, you're frustrated, right? Like as a defender, you're kind of like on tilt of like, what's going on? I have to recover. Okay, I
don't want to lose the battle, so I'm gonna step in.
I'm behind the 8 ball. I'm gonna step in just a little bit, but that's where Roldan and Larrea has the same attribute. Just has that feel for when that moment is coming. And he sticks the leg out to shield, and I think it's a fair shield. It's not out into the path of the attacker. But now all of a sudden the game is different 2 minutes before halftime.
Yeah. Yeah,
those are the little moments of like recognizing I have a leverage point right here. Which side of the seesaw do I want to be on?
Yeah. It's a huge goal. It's a huge moment. We
can go to game 2. Let's go to game 2.
Again, it's home teams in MLS. Dallas, similar to Red Bulls, normally doesn't give up a ton of chances. They are, I think, the best defense in the playoffs. They are going to be in the game. The question is, do they have anything to take them over the top? If Kumungo can't go from the start, that's a huge blow.
We were talking about this. David and I did the preview for MLS Season Pass.
That's
right.
On Apple TV.
Your position is Kumungo should start as the center forward with Herrera as the 10 in a 4-2-3-1.
Or hotter, I don't care who the center forward is. I think Jesus needs to be the 10 if Velasco is not healthy, and Kumungo needs to be on the field. Yeah. That's your only chance. Yeah. I think that's your only chance of getting through. And if it's Eugene Onset center forward, like I think Jesus is good on the ball. I think he affects the game for them. If you've lost Velasco, what do you play out from? If you're on that back line and you look up, what's your safety valve?
Oh, I don't worry about safety valves between Yaramendi and Pamukal. Like they have
but those guys are going to be on top of you a lot of the game.
They weren't. No. Dallas's spacing and playing out is really good. Like I do not worry about that at all. I worry about getting to the final third and just having no idea of anything.
Yeah, I don't know that changes no matter which of these guys is in those spaces.
I mean, in theory, it should, right? If you're getting, like, Jesus Ferreira is your most creative player of everyone you have left. If you're getting him on the ball more in the half spaces, that seems good.
I mean, that's Dallas at LA on decision day, right?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Ferreira really wasn't playing as a quote-unquote 9 a lot of the time. He was sort of drifting off out of that
But a
position.
lot of those are transition goals, which is what I'm talking about. When I say
fair.
Safety valve, it's we've won the ball in my first ball out, not building out of a goal kick, but like where it's purposeful. But it's like get Jesus there with someone running away from him, and then it's I could play an early ball or I could run into space. Are we going to talk about what's happened? Where is Paul Arriola? Like his, as a designated player, inability to affect the game this year for Dallas? Or are we just
no,
he's already done. So we move on.
Paul Arriola is a really good player, but he's more of a wing back than a winger, and he always has been.
They had an ability last year.
The first half of last year, he got on a heater.
And to allow his presence as like similar to Roldan, of like his energy, his effort that changed plays on the back post for the most part.
Right.
And they don't find any of that anymore.
Yeah, I just thinking it through, they were so structured last year in that 4-2-3-1 and especially 4-3-3 last year with a single pivot, and it was Velasco pinching inside from that left side, and that would allow Arriola to just stretch the field.
So it just seemed like he had a runway all the time last year.
Yeah.
Whereas they're not having as much of the ball this year, and they're down the stretch anyway, they were a little bit more freelance with the double pivot, just providing support to Velasco and allowing him and Ferreira to try to make the game. It was less positional play, and I think maybe he struggled with that. But either way, like Paul Arriola is a really good player. There's a little bit of fool's gold in that goal total last year.
Yeah.
Like he's never been a high-level goal scorer. I think he would fit best in a 3-5-2.
In typical ETR fashion, producer Maria is saying, you guys are taking way too long. We're going to be here forever.
Right.
What's your prediction here?
I think this one goes to penalties and then goes to game 3 where Seattle takes care of business.
Hive over here.
It's not a vote of confidence in Dallas. It's just I think Seattle's going to make a good long run. I just don't think it's going to be from putting teams away on the road because they just don't have the firepower that they did 2 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm going to fall on a lot of the home teams winning. But yeah, I'll take Dallas.
I'm going to take Seattle. Somebody's got to split this.
Going out on a limb by choosing, for many people, the Western Conference.
Yes. All right, let's go to Sunday, November 5th. It starts with Sporting Kansas City.
We are tracking for like a 7-hour
I know. That's why. St. Louis City, I would do it. I would do it.
I don't even have a clock. Well, it's the only one this week.
Yeah, other people are relying upon us, I guess, to finish at a normal time to get home to, I don't know, see their families or have, leisure time. So 5 p.m. Eastern.
Lame.
Sporting Kansas City up 1-0, going home, a chance to close it out at Children's Mercy Park. Story of game 1, I feel like we've kind of gone through it. Kansas City punched St. Louis squarely in the mouth, and St. Louis at home in particular is used to being the puncher, and St. Louis just didn't respond. I thought it was a big mistake by Bradley Carnell not to play 2 forwards. That's worked so well against Kansas City previously, and they just didn't have... What were they playing into when they did win the ball? Just João Klaus by himself. Kansas City's weakness are their center backs in open space 1v1, and they weren't able to really exploit it at all. They weren't able to get Kansas City scrambling, which is where they just killed Sporting all season long.
So I thought the idea in playing the 4-2-3-1 was like, okay, Kansas City's at their best when they bring their fullbacks up. Let's play with wingers, and those wingers will just be able to exploit the space. But Leuven and Blom never won the ball in midfield, and geez, everybody had to compensate for Nielsen. Nielsen was so bad in central defense that I think it just compromised the entire shape of what St. Louis was trying to do. And like that's not the entire story of the 4-1, because part of it were just like incredible strikes from Ndembe and Kinda, right? But like,
I mean, even Voltaire's
was very nice.
First time this year, according to Paul Carr, the stats guru that he is, that a team scored 3 goals outside the 18 in one game.
The Voltaire one, though, was at least that came off of like 3 or 4 chances in a row in the box.
Yeah.
Like the Ndembe and Kinda ones were just like golazzos,
But the Voltaire one is exactly how St. Louis scored their goals.
Yeah, but
it's a second ball pushed direct at a scrambling back line, and then it's like target practice until somebody gets in lane.
I don't disagree, and I think for SKC this could go down as one of the great victories like for this time period, right? They haven't been a playoff team. They potentially missed out. They were able to sit Johnny Russell, get him healthy. If that gets him close to where he can be for them to win a game 2 and then be healthy in the next round, like they could make a run, and it could all be because this slightly rotated team was able to put this performance in. But at the time that they went up 3-1, they had a 0.1 XG. Those were not high leverage chances. Gotti Kinda's was a 1% chance of finishing from that position off a Kyrie Shell
professional goal, I think.
And Debe's was his first pro goal. Yeah. He's been really good. And what's interesting is they played him as a winger for a bit in the middle of the season when they had injuries, and he started to get more comfortable. And I think that's allowed him to now settle in at left back as a young player in a new league and a team that struggles defensively, and find his game, where I think he was a little scared to get involved in the attack. And he's been a good part of that team. And obviously, I sit around and watch Jake Davis just serve balls out of the right back position with every part of his foot for 5 hours.
By the way, credit to Ndembe too, because defensively against the Quakes in the wild card round, Espinoza had almost nothing other than 1 chance.
So it's soccer. You have to put away your chances. It's huge. To me, the glaring part was St. Louis's inability to create chances. They were the highest scoring home team in the league. They score 1 goal off a knockdown from Pulido on a corner kick for their center back. Klaus doesn't get looks. There's no one, like you said, for him to play off of. I didn't think Jackson was able to find the game at all, and Lovin's not close enough to goal to affect things. So to me, it's like you don't want to go in this way, but you probably have to beat KC 3-2. But you're capable of it. You've been capable of it all season. You beat them 4-1 at home. In the previous match, you put up 5 in the game before, and it felt to me that they lost their way in attack because of what you talked about. And SKC took advantage, and that's great. But I think that they need to look at themselves and say, what are we capable of doing to this team?
All right, game 2. Let's flip it, Doyle. How should Carnell approach game 2?
I do think you have to go back to the 4-4-2 or 4-2-2-2. The 4-2-3-1, it just didn't work. And I know, look, over the final couple months of the season, not much was working for St. Louis. They were shut out in 3 of their last 5 games. I think the silver lining is that the one time they really exploded was the 4-1 win over Sporting Kansas City. Of course, for 70 minutes, Sporting KC was the better team in that game, right? And then they kind of fell apart. They were on short rest, and Carnell made that line change, and he's been so great with that all year long. And like, turn it into a game of transition moments. Try to coax Sporting Kansas City into knocking the ball around a
100%.
bit further upfield, because they were so disciplined about that in game 1. So maybe they're riding a little
or
too high
even in
game
their
2.
own, like try to get them to build out of the back.
Yeah.
A couple times. Like that's where some mistakes happened in that 4-1 game where it was just like, oh, that's a gift and goal. Like Rosero, Fontas.
Well, we've talked about this a lot, right? St. Louis are not necessarily a high pressing team. They're a midfield ambush team. If you look at where they draw their line, where they create turnovers, it does not tend to be in the attacking third. Maybe this is a game to say, all right, everyone forward. We're gonna strangle them from the first kick. This is not gonna be St. Louis City soccer. This is gonna be energy drink soccer. Get after them, because those center backs are really good ball playing center backs. They do not have the type of put out fires off the ball type of ability that we see from, I think, the best defensive center back pairings in the league.
Also, to your point about the Remy Walter goal, like they need to generate a bunch of low percentage chances where numbers are around the box for it to fall to them. That's not a knock. That's what St. Louis did all year. They need to be in position to do that, and they need to have as many opportunities for that to occur as they can. If you wait till the 60th minute for the line change, that might be too late in an elimination game with your back against the wall.
Yeah, I even think just tone setting off the jump, Doyle. Maybe it's not something you're going to do all game, pressing high, but maybe it's just like, hey, let's remind not just Kansas City, but let's remind ourselves of what makes us successful, of the mindset and the aggression and the directness that's made City all season long. And you don't have to press that way the whole game.
Yeah.
Like their repress when they have you trapped is very good as well.
Yeah. Let's win the first 15 minutes and the last 10 minutes of both halves.
Also, that San Jose game, not a knock because I get it, but like that was not an SKC home playoff crowd.
Right.
Coming out of this St. Louis game, it's going to be again. Everyone's back,
yeah.
right? So take them out of the game. And also, my assumption is Johnny Russell doesn't start.
Yeah.
I think Tommy probably will. Like, he's good enough that you would. I don't think you start Johnny Russell if you don't have to, if he's not 100% after you've won that first game, and you can bring Tommy back in. So can you take the crowd out of the game early? Can you give your team confidence without Russell in the game?
All right. Road team pull the upset here?
No.
Quote unquote upset, 1 seed on 8 seed, and
no. Sporting Kansas City just been a better team for most of the year.
I'm struggling with this one.
I'm picking Kansas City too.
Interesting. I think the first game was an outlier, but I don't know that St. Louis can go to Kansas City and set the tone and play their way the full 90 minutes and get over the top. So I'm going to go KC as well.
This one's much tighter, I think, than the last one. I think we see a better Alan Polito in St. Louis. The margins just...
He had an assist to Tim Parker.
It's fair, with his arm.
Yeah,
with his arm. All right, let's keep it rolling.
Nico Esso's not complaining about that one.
No, Sunday, November 5th, the nightcap.
Jeez, we got breaking news.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Finish your read.
We've got a lot of breaking news.
Yeah, geez. Vancouver Whitecaps, LAFC, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. LAFC, of course, leads the series 1-0 after a 5-2 win in LA. Would you like to?
Do we want to do this breakdown first and then get to the break? All right, the breaking news is ESPN FC is reporting that Inter Miami have agreed to a deal with Luis Suarez.
Oh, I can't believe it.
That was really good.
I'm shocked.
That was pretty good. So he's the fourth member of that great Barcelona team from a decade ago who is now with Miami. It's not official yet. It seems like pretty big news.
Yeah, but come on. We all knew.
Yeah, Suarez, he's 36 years old, but he's been one of the best players in Brazil. I think he leads the league in assists, also has like 15 goals this year.
It should work out.
It should work out. Pretty good chemistry.
Yeah, decent.
Yeah. The other breaking news is that our guy Tom and Paul Tenorio are reporting that Phil Neville and the Portland Timbers are dotting some I's and crossing some T's. It's not
There's no
officially
T's at
done
Phil
yet.
level.
Yeah.
It's just
But there is in
I's.
Timbers.
There is. Good call.
Dotting some
Thank
I's
you.
and crossing some
Portland
T's.
Timber.
Crossing some T's, in that he will be the next coach of the Portland Timbers.
All right, we'll get to that at
Suarez
the end
10
of the
and
show.
10 this year in Brazil. That's why I just pulled that out of my memory bank.
Nice.
Incredible.
In the
All right, let's talk Vancouver. I promise we will, if Maria allows it, we'll talk about that.
yeah.
at the
So
end of the show.
Vancouver, LAFC, it was set piece defending. We were on this show last week, and I said that Vancouver had only given up 1 goal in their last 3 games of the regular season against St. Louis, LAFC, and Seattle, top 3 teams in the West. For the I think it was last 7 games, it was only 2 goals from the run of open play. Everything else was set piece goals. A few of them were on Takaoka. A bunch of them were on overall team defending. It was, if you take someone's Achilles heel and then you make it stretch from the heel all the way to the back of their head, that's what it was like for Vancouver to give. You like that?
Oh yeah.
I needed like.
Oh
that.
yeah.
It was 4 goals off
4
set pieces.
And they were second worst in MLS in the regular season, behind only Inter Miami.
And I had said the give and take was LAFC were one of the lowest to score off set pieces in the league. So the give and take ended up pretty good for LAFC. So for Vancouver, that's it. That's the ballgame. They gave up 1 goal outside of that. They scored 2. They equalized twice on the road at the reigning champions. And yet they could not, across the board. It's not on one player. It's not like one player didn't track Ryan Hollingshead 3 times. It was a short, that short taken free kick. I think Takaoka does really poorly on that one, but also the ability of your team to read the situation and close out, that's poor. First ball defending and second ball defending on the corner kicks. When are you going to hold on the line and when are you going to pull the offside line up? It was mistakes across the board, taking away Bouanga dribbling by 3 guys on the 1 goal.
I thought it was embarrassing for the Caps to lose like that.
Ooh.
Like, I would be embarrassed to give up 4 set piece goals and lose 5-2 and like just repeated errors like that. How could Vanni Sartini not be a little bit embarrassed?
Gramsci never wrote anything about defending set pieces.
Should have.
He's so stoked.
Yeah, loved it. Loved it. And look, that's just the reality of the result. Like, Vancouver had every opportunity to do something special. Every time that Vanni says we're trying to go out and get it, it feels like it blows up in the Caps' face. I was disappointed. I guess that's my biggest. I was just disappointed in the Caps and their level of preparation in that phase.
Wiebe's not
and then
angry.
level of focus.
Yeah.
He's disappointed.
I'm disappointed.
It's very fatherly.
That's my dad. Yes, I'm going straight dad with that.
And it's like, what do we say now? What do you like? You couldn't fix it all year. You didn't fix it for the first playoff game. What are the odds they're going to fix it now?
Yeah, it doesn't seem great.
And credit to Cherundolo and LAFC too for taking, as you said, what wasn't a strength and making it a relative strength and just saying, you know what, we actually have maybe one of the best set piece attackers in the league. That's not a traditional set piece attacker. And Ryan Hollingshead,
He just has a nose for
find
the second
space.
ball.
Like, just go out there and find space against this zonal marking scheme. And he did it. He reacts faster. He has a better feel for where the ball is going to fall. The service was good. You got a traditional 1-2 and that Yaimar dunked on somebody.
Yep. Not Yaimar, Murillo.
Oh, Murillo?
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
my
like,
bad.
how did we get to that game
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, my bad.
We
My
were
bad.
trying to make it a 6-hour show.
Yeah.
right?
All right.
Yeah.
Game 2, because I don't think there's anything else to really.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I agree. I just want to say I thought Kubas was really good.
The pass for the white goal
Oh my
off the
God.
steal, the turnover, and then he curls the ball
Yes.
into White's feet is unbelievable.
So the question is, can you create 3 of these? And because I think it's going to probably take 3 from the Caps to win this.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll be as bad on set pieces as they were in game 1. But at the same time, if I said LAFC is going to get 1 restart goal, you all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Like everyone, yeah.
Yeah, sounds about
Nobody
right.
thinks
So bad.
nobody thinks the Caps are about to pitch a shutout on restarts. It's tough. I still think Vancouver's too good a team to go out in 2.
Have we
with
underplayed
that.
somehow Denny Bwanga's brilliance this year? I think he's
He's
at 35
Awesome in this game.
goals, all comps right now.
Yeah. I mean,
It's just a joy. It's a joy to watch him.
I think the single season all comps record is Vela.
Has to be.
37.
I think that sounds right.
In 2019.
Mhm.
So Bouanga's catching up.
Would you change anything if you're Vancouver to account for Bouanga in whether it's tactics or personnel?
I don't know if this accounts for Bouanga, but I was confused. I like Pedro Vite, but I don't know why they didn't start Ali Ahmed.
Yeah.
Felt like he brings a little bit more balance than Pedro Vite did, and Vite wasn't impactful in an attacking sense, I didn't think.
Yeah.
So like the strength that he has just didn't show up for you.
Yeah, except you'd assume you'd start Vite in this game because
Yeah, that kind of was backwards
yeah.
to me. Of like, why on the road you went Pedro Vite?
I just look at the Bouanga goal, and I think Javane Brown's the right player to be in that situation of like he has played as a fullback. He can, I think, run with Bouanga at times and cut back and forth. It just felt like he and Larea were too disconnected in their spacing. And so Bouanga approached Brown and Veselinovic at full speed. You're never going to win that battle. And so whether it's communication, whether it's the coaching of like, positioning and rest defense, whatever it is, has to be better. I didn't think Blackman had those problems when he was on that side over the end of the game, but also game states. So I don't know if that's a solution. I wouldn't start Luis Martins as a left center back if I had a playoff game that I had to win. So there's that question as well. And after the first 2 games, Adekugbe hasn't been very good. Clearly he's been hurt and they've been trying to save him, but he wasn't a difference maker in this game. Richie's been good on both sides. So there's a few options out there. Like if you take Richie off the right side, do you have someone there who maybe is more focused on Bouanga rather than trying to say, well, if Richie attacks, Bouanga has to defend.
Which he's not gonna.
No, he plays as a center forward.
100%. All right, going to 3 or no?
Yes, BC Place is opening up the upper deck for
That's
a Whitecaps
sick.
game for the first time
Awesome.
in history. This place is loud. They are comfortable the way that turf runs. They play fairly direct. They get the tempo of the game where they want it. Brian White looked good. Gauld looked good. Kubas looked good. Yeah, I think Vancouver gets a victory.
You agree?
Yeah.
I agree too. All right, let's keep it moving. Monday, November 6th. Sorry to the Vancouver Whitecaps for that one. RSL, Houston Dynamo, 9 p.m. Eastern. We talked about
Do you
this
think we
one.
curse them? Is that
Houston, yeah, generally. When it's a sweep, I figure that's the case. Houston are up 1-0 in the series, 2-1 winners. It took them, they got a little nervous there until Bassi got the goal. Diego Luna had a nice transition goal for RSL, who had absolutely none of the ball, and not exactly 23%, but basically no Chicho Arango for that game, no Justin Glad for that game for RSL. It changed the tactics, and obviously they're still missing Pablo Ruiz, so sort of a makeshift team for Pablo Mastroeni.
Technically didn't change the tactics from decision day. They just swapped Vera in for
Yeah.
Glad, but both went poorly.
Yeah, I just played straight up for the counter, and I don't know that they had many other choices.
This was everything about the Dynamo that makes them such a fun team to root for and such a fun dark horse pick to win MLS Cup, and everything about the Dynamo that makes them a dark horse pick to win MLS Cup instead of a favorite. Because if you look at the quality of their soccer, they play, like, other than Columbus, I think they play the best soccer in the league. It's beautiful to watch. It's so much fun. They do not have the type of center forward or Dennis Bouanga type of goal scoring winger who consistently turns those flowing possession-based movements into goals. And because of that, even when they're having 75% possession and camping out in the attacking third and unleashing shot after shot after shot, they still sometimes struggle to put teams away. And that was the story in this one. And give them a ton of credit for Houston Dynamoing their way to that second goal, which was just that patented ping, ping, ping around the top of the box. And, what we were talking about 15 hours ago at the start of the show, the Carrasquilla with his back to goal and like the chip over the back line for the on-rushing attacker and then the pull back across. The only difference was nice save from the goalkeeper, but Bassi's there for the rebound. It was great to watch. Dynamo are probably going to dictate just as much of the game in the second leg, especially because RSL have been bad at home. They should win this one. But in terms of a long run in these Western Conference playoffs, they just have less firepower than the other teams are going to end up going against.
Seems like Chicho's back, by the way. He's on the Graham. Graham reporting tells me that he's ready for that La Guerra, he says.
Yeah, but you said that to me before game one.
Yeah.
So, and he's been out for a little while.
So you can't trust everything you see on Instagram?
Even if he's back, what are the chances he's 100%?
Yeah.
0.
Yeah.
And it makes them more dangerous. But if he's not 100%, there is not a lot of buildup in this RSL team. So it has to come through him and Luna in transition. And I don't know that he's physically capable of that. I thought RSL were the worst team in this opening round of games in this first round. I thought they were the team that I had least belief that they could win the matchup they were in throughout the game.
They got you just where they want you.
I know. And I was most underwhelmed by their performance. So I thought Diego Luna was great. And for a 19-year-old to do that in this league and continue to work and like
he's on a star trajectory.
that's stuff that if Brendan Aronson had done it 2 years ago, if Jack McGlynn did it, we would be talking about national team. He did it as the guy in that game. And he kept his head down and worked.
By the way,
in a game he's not getting touches.
I just want to digress really quickly. There's been a lot of talk in my mentions and just on social media in general about fast tracking Diego Luna to the national team, especially with Tim Weah out. I'm of the opposite. I say leave him with the U23s through the Olympics. It is important.
But you were the one posting the like. These were Brendan Aronson's numbers, Luna would be called.
Yeah, and that was in the context of we just have so much more depth now than we did even 4 years ago. To me, like the most important thing for this kid's career on the national team level is to be the focal point of the U23s at the Olympics in Paris next year. I'm sorry, that was an unnecessary digression. Just wanted to get out of my
It's fine. Either way, national teams don't matter, and club's the only thing that matters. And he is the center of this team. Severino, incredibly underwhelming over the end of the season.
Sort of feels like we might be seeing
the end.
Yeah.
Yep. And I think Luna's a part of that, which is like if you now have Arango, you're hoping Pablo Ruiz comes back, what you've already spent on Andres Gomez, the other pieces you've brought into this team, you could have a world in which Severino's not a starter. Why not use that spot? I don't know, on a center back? Am I like out of my mind? Having a good center back would help. So not a lot of that first game made me believe RSL could win, but as Doyle said, they've got me exactly where they want me.
Should we just hit predictions on this one? Because I think we've kind of told the story of maybe how it would go down in game 2. I don't think they're not going to come out and play some like give us the ball, let us run thing. I mean,
Corey Baird revenge game.
Houston's bring the crab is coming to Sandy, baby. Crabs are very comfortable in sand. I'm sorry. Who will win game 2? I have Houston. I just don't see RSL with the firepower to do it.
We're all going to be stupid and pick Houston here.
I know.
Because
especially because I said over 4.5 would go, and I don't think I've picked enough for there to be 5 games. 3.
But this is just like, this would be just the most RSL thing. We're all counting them out. Like, here's your bulletin board. RSL, we're counting you out. We don't think you can win this game.
Yeah, look into the solo cam right here. Just make sure you're speaking directly into
RSL has no chance of winning this game. None. There you go.
Pablo Mastroeni, thanks you for your service.
That was a great take. I think this one's over in 2. Unanimous?
Yes.
All right.
We are wrong.
Gavel.
Continue.
Dr. Scoops rules that is a unanimous decision. Tuesday, November 7th, Atlanta United, Columbus Crew, 7 Eastern. Columbus lead this series 1-0. 2-0 win against Atlanta in Columbus. No Thiago Almada. Scott Foltz hit us up and said how much of this was due to 1, Almada not playing, 2, Pineda's game plan, 3, Crew's defensive performance. 1 shot, no shots on goal for Atlanta United. Tried to mirror the formation, Doyle. 5-3-2 against the Crew, and the Crew just...
So I thought playing for the smash and grab was the right idea because the way Atlanta's built, I don't know why I just got Toronto.
Well, we were talking about a team with 1 shot and no chance of winning.
Yeah, that actually makes sense. Yeah. The way Atlanta's built, it all goes through Thiago Almada. Like he is the alpha and the omega of that attack, and trying to find a like for like didn't make any sense. Getting another center back onto the field kind of made sense. Unfortunately, it was Ronald Hernandez, which didn't go particularly great for them. All right, it's not a clean slate. You're now up against it, but you have a ton of talent on the field because Muyamba managed to not get a red card, and because Almada's back and Yakumakis is awesome, and you can start both Saba and Xande Silva, and also Gonzalo Pineda can go through the film. and pick out all the turnovers that were so unnecessary and be like, we're not doing that again. We are not doing that again.
How many hours of tape does Gonzalo Pineda have of
So,
unnecessary turnovers? And
not a
bad
lot
spots
from the
this year?
second half of the season, right? Not a lot from, but if you look at Atlanta's breakdowns in the second half of the season, they were more organizational. They were more like, oh, we didn't get pressure to the opposing defensive midfielder, or we were too late on our rotations. It wasn't stupidity playing out of the back. What we saw on this game was just like some brainless stuff from guys who have been better than that over the past couple of months.
I mean, it's amazing to go to a away game where you only get one shot on goal to play smash and grab.
Not even a
and
shot.
Give
on
up
goal.
sorry,
Just
one shot. And give up the opening goal by getting caught in transition the other
Incredible.
way. And like
And the first half
Columbus
had been good.
is stoked. Yeah, and well, I mean,
Other than the Gressel thing, right?
Yeah.
And Gressel should have had a shot. And then
Yeah.
there was one
Nagby
other.
had a chance on a.
Nagby had a chance, and Yaya Boa got out on the break, but he couldn't figure out.
And
whether he
Mayumba
should
tried
have
to get
passed.
sent off. That
Yeah.
was the only
That
other
was
part.
big.
But like the first, up until that Cucho
Yeah.
moment, but
But then you turn it over while you're pushing numbers forward, and now the ball cycles through to arguably the best goal scorer, the best finisher
he's
in the
been
league.
the best player in MLS the past 2 months.
and
Hezzy
it's
on
one of those
Ronald
moments where you're
was-
watching it and you say out loud, "Goal!" Right? Like the
cooked.
moment he picks up that ball, you're like, "Goal!"
He's cooked. The
Yeah.
Hezzy to like freeze Hernandez.
And then
He's
he
just
just
like, yeah, you're standing right there.
Rifles
Yeah.
it in.
Well, I thought in the way that they set it up, I thought it was just going to be basically banks of 3 in the area that the Crew like to move you around and attack through, and then everybody else has the option to go. Like one of the fullbacks, you go, okay, and then it's Yakumakis and it's probably Shande Silva, and that's basically it. That's how we'll attack. We won't attack and push the entire shape forward, which is why that was so shocking.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
also a bad time for your best central midfielder to have a brain fart game.
Yeah.
Like where and what?
Well, it just follows up your star player getting a red card in a pretty much meaningless decision day game.
Clearly, Muyumba was told you need to be around Aiden Morris. Like Aiden Morris is the guy that you should be around.
Well,
as
it was
much as
Baton
possible.
Aiden Morris
he was
is-
kicking chunks out of, though. The Baton is the one who drew what should have been the second yellow
Yeah.
card.
I mean, there was
I feel
an
like
11th
Aiden
minute
Morris is going to
challenge
show
on
up in a
Morris.
Nagby jersey
Yeah.
next game and be like, "Not me. Go foul those guys."
By the way,
He was on the ground like 4 times.
I don't blame Gonzalo Pineda for going out for the smash and grab. Playing the 3-5-2 or the 5-3-2, however you want to call it. Columbus have faced teams that played with 3 in the back or 5 a dozen times this year. They lost the first one. That was against FC Cincinnati. They are unbeaten in the subsequent games. So mirroring them is not a great
You
idea.
should have sent that stat to Atlanta before this game.
I sent it to Steve Cangelosi.
There you go. That worked.
He should have
That
passed
didn't work
one
out
on
great
to
for
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
I didn't.
How do you think game 2 plays out? Who wins it?
I mean, Almada's back in. The
Feels like
energy
he's going to have a
completely
blinder,
shifts.
doesn't it?
He has throughout the last year,
Yeah.
right? In big moments, in big games, outside of the Leagues Cup game against Miami when they got run off the field, which could be a bit of an indicator to what will happen. That was pre-Muyumba. That was a different team, but it still goes to my feeling, which is like this is a weak group for Atlanta, and they fall apart pretty quickly. And they came into this game with basically no chance, where it's like, listen to all the things we said about RSL. And I think Columbus is better than Houston, but RSL lost by a goal and was in that game somehow. Atlanta was never in that game. So it'll be different. It's their atmosphere. That building will jump. Almada's back in. That'll unlock Yakumakis to be dangerous. Now you start to get into the things you want to, which is like, who can challenge aerially for Columbus against Yakumakis? So is it chances on goal, or is it knockdowns for Silva coming underneath, for Saba coming underneath, for Almada? There's a lot there for this team. At the same time, Cucho's or Diego Rossi are going to get chances. Like if you step your numbers up, this is not a backline that can defend 1v1.
It's a fire and fire game. To me, it's like a 3-2,
Which is
4-3
what we
game.
were all hoping for
Yeah.
from this
Yeah.
series. And Gonzalo Pineda said, no.
Well, actually, Thiago Almada said no.
Yeah.
And Gonzalo Pineda said, well, I'm backed into a corner, so now what do? I do.
He said, have you been to 2016 MLS Cup? You don't have to shoot.
Credit, well, or he's been watching RSL back in the day too. Credit to Crew, who I think have turned a corner since that Orlando loss 4-3 that was so painful. They're not as open. They're not generating as many chances, but they're giving up far fewer just like brain fart. What are we doing in game, mid game, whatever it is? Like, how could that happen to us in this moment chances? And so I think their level as an MLS Cup contender has taken a pretty big jump over the past month and a half.
They did a really good job of killing this game off. They didn't defend in Patrick Schulte's lap. They can't do that, right? They are not like that Seattle team David just referenced that could just throw numbers behind the ball and grind out a 1-0 win. So I thought they did a good job.
Give me a result.
Yeah, I think Atlanta is actually going to lay one on them here. I think a multi-goal Atlanta win. I think Almada is too good not to come back with fire in his eyes and just be the dominant player on the field in this game.
Almada, Yakumaki's Atlanta win. We're going back to Columbus.
I'll take the same.
Cool. Oh, by the way, congratulations to the newcomer of the year in Major League Soccer.
Lionel Messi.
Yeah, you beat me to it. Georgios Yakumakis. Messi finished second. Edward Leuven finished third. The Messi one, it is what it is.
Messi won the players' vote.
Yeah, and the front office vote maybe too, or close.
And I think Yakumakis won
it was closer.
It was close.
Yeah, it was closer. Look, if there were no rules on this thing, I would have voted Lionel Messi all day. But as it was, there were. And so Yakumakis got the award.
He was awesome.
He was
an awesome player. I think he'll get a goal this weekend too.
Speaking of awards, go vote for Goal of the Year and Save of the Year at MLSsoccer.com. You can vote through Monday, November 6th. You have 3 days to get your vote in. I would ask you who you guys are voting for, but I don't want to reveal your ballot. And producer Maria says we are killing her. So Nashville SC Orlando is our next match. This is part of, I believe, 3 matches on Tuesday, November 7th.
Perfect way to spend the Tuesday.
Yeah.
Of that.
9 p.m. Eastern time. Oh, 2 matches. Sorry, there's a November 8th game, which finishes it off. What'd you think of game 1? Missed chances? Is that the whole story? I mean, I thought Nashville did exactly what they would have wanted to do.
It's, we all said Nashville plus Surge. That'll be the difference. And it wasn't.
Yeah.
Surge missed, I thought, 2 big chances, but at least one. Bunbury misses a big chance. That's kind of been the story for all the other guys on this team as well. And Honey has not been able to elevate alone and carry the team. But I agree with you in that I thought Nashville played the game they wanted. There's whatever the miscommunication was between Sean Davis and Walker Zimmerman, but it's, I think, the goal of the year, which won't count. You can't vote for it.
Say his name, Wilder Cartagena.
Yeah, from Cartagena, which he doesn't normally do. Now, I think one of the things about Orlando is there's a really high individual level of quality in this team. I don't think there's that many game breakers that showed up, but I'm not shocked that multiple starting international level players in this team could potentially score a goal of that quality in one-off games. And so they stepped up, they did it. They held it over the end of the game. I think there's still spaces where Nashville could say, Jacob Schaffelberg, you had a lot of 1v1 chances coming from deep. Push that ball to the corner and run and start playing crosses in. Like, I thought there was openings for this Nashville team, but overall, I thought this was one of the tightest.
Yeah, this is the cagiest game.
And we came out of game 1 feeling the
predictably
same.
So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, predictably so.
Yeah. And I still think that the Nashville that we saw in Leagues Cup is the real version of Nashville. We're just running out of runway for me to land that take.
Is it the real version? I went back and looked at the Leagues Cup numbers. There were 10 goal scorers in like 7 games in Leagues Cup. Is that really the real Nashville? To spread the wealth around the entire team and not have it be Hani and Sam Surridge that are leading?
I do think so, yeah, because I think all of their wingers get forward, and all of the center backs, and they have 3 center backs they use in the rotation, are huge aerial threats on set pieces. And Dax has always been very good at sneaking to the top of the box to put rebounds away a couple times a year. So yeah, I do think that's the real version of them.
I think it's the ideal version.
Fair.
I don't know that it's
fair. Maybe I'm
version.
Idealizing Nashville a little bit. I'll just echo David. I thought they played their game. They got the chances they wanted in the way they wanted. They limited Orlando City. I thought both Facu Torres and Duncan Maguire really struggled in this one. Didn't matter. Orlando figured out a way to get the win in the way that they've been winning since May.
Game 2.
Nashville at home. I think it's a very similar game.
It's the exact same game.
And then I think your expectation is with the crowd behind you at your stadium, like we saw in Leagues Cup, you have enough to get over the line.
Orlando City, the best road team in MLS this year, 9-4-4.
So what's interesting about that, though, is they play on the road the way they played in game 1 at home. I think it's less of a shift from game 1 now because, as I've said a million times, Oscar Pareja kind of seals things up whenever it's must-win games, and plays a little bit scrappy and does just enough. And I thought that's what we saw in game one. So I don't think there'll be as large a shift from what we saw in the regular season, which was a very different team home and away.
So they played October 4th, by the way, in Nashville. It was a 1-0 win. It was the McGuire goal game. We talked to, obviously, Duncan on the last show. And I think that Orlando had 2 shots.
Yeah. I think it'll be the same game.
Do you think Nashville will feel pressured to carry more of the ball?
Maybe, but I thought in the second half when they did, trailing, that they were dangerous.
They were good.
So I don't think it's an issue. Dax
if Dax is back, he's got an ankle injury.
Yeah. So I think that's a big loss for them. I talked about the Schaffelberg thing. I think Fafa Picault was a big part of the Leagues Cup run. He's had trouble getting back into the team as Serge has come into the team. I don't know if they're related. And I've been very underwhelmed by Shaq Moore just overall in his Nashville career. I think there was a big idea that he could be a threat down the wing and that would allow you to put more numbers in the box. That hasn't been the case at all. And I thought he struggled 1v1 defensively as well. I think Angulo's a good player, but he gave them more issues, especially in the first half, coming inside, passing guys off, than he should.
Who wins this thing? Game 3?
I think this goes to game 3. Yeah. It depends on if Dax is back. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the on-offs this year, or not starting this year with Dax is really bad.
Pretty
I think
stark.
they haven't won a game since June.
Yeah, something like that. Without him in the starting
lineup. So if he's back, I like Nashville's chances of bringing it to game 3. If he's not, then I like Orlando's chances of wrapping it up.
I won a game 3, but I think Dax off an ankle injury, that's a lot to ask of him. I'm going to say Orlando sneak this one out.
I'll say Nashville.
Okay. Last one, New England, Philadelphia. I'm so sorry, Maria. 7 p.m. Eastern. This one is on Wednesday, November 8th. And then we're back on Thursday. What's the story of game 1? Is it just Carlos Heel, Dave, or is it bigger than that? Jacob Jackson?
I don't think Jackson's as at fault. I think it's Heel, and I just think it's the reality. It's a bad Revs
Philly
team.
getting downhill is the reality. And when Philly starts playing downhill and everything is fast in transition and multiple runners in the box, they look like the Philly of last year. And we haven't seen that a lot throughout this season because their legs are dead. They've just logged so many miles. So having the international break in the middle of October and then getting to rest Jose Martinez as well on decision day, forced rest because he missed that one of the suspension. That was actually a blessing in disguise. And the first half of this game, it's not like they tilt the field to have possession in the Revs end. It's just like every single change of possession in midfield was boom, going the other direction. And when Philly play like that, the Revs aren't a good enough defensive team.
One of the things the Revs really struggle with is covering the second forward when the ball's in the channel and coming across the box. And so when it's Carranza or Ura, whoever it is, that makes the first run, the other center back struggles to stay with and be in good position. And that's one of the things that Philly does great. You add on top of that, you've lost a big player in Brandon Bye. Jones is now flip side. So I think Nathan Harriel has a pretty big advantage on that wing. Pretty much this was coming out of decision day even, which we said, Andre Blake, pretty much 2 goals he doesn't give up. This was what I thought the matchup would be if Philly woke up and played soccer like they've played over the last 4 years in this playoff game, and that's exactly what happened. And then Heel goes off, and that kind of kills any momentum to get back in it.
Heel will be back, so says Clint Piet, and his teammates say he's back in training. The Revs got a good break in that there was a long, long layoff between these games, the longest in the entire league. They're the first game in the round 1, and then they're the last game in the second game. Game 3, I guess, is the same question we've been asking. What do you think?
I think the Revs are dead.
Yeah.
So I had a little hope at a decision day, which was like, they bounce back. They look competitive. Maybe there's belief. Heel goes off in the first half. They give up. Like, there's a lot that's gone on this season. And I don't think
supposed to be back.
No, but just the feeling in the team of like, they were second in the East.
Yeah.
They're an MLS Cup contender. They don't feel that way anymore. And the way you react to going down in that game is like kind of giving up and holding it for game 2. I just don't think you have a chance.
Yeah, I think I agree with David. And let's give this Philadelphia team their respect. Like, they make a deep run just about every year. And it's too early for them to falter at all. And I think they smell blood. And I think they're going to come out and they're going to play like it.
We have said they're waiting for this, right? We have said the adjustment from other years is not grind for Supporter Shield to sort of slow play it. But I don't think they can get there without Glesnes on the field. And so I think Lowe, again, I've said this a couple times this year, they brought in players like Lowe who are good enough to get them results in the regular season, to get them through the group stage of the Leagues Cup, to get them a little bit deeper in CCL. But the top end for them, they cannot miss pieces, and they will need him back in the team if they're going to go on from here after.
I'm going to say Revs win this game. Decision day playback.
So
you think Heel plays?
Yeah, for sure. He's starting. 100%.
Heel plays. Do you think that the Union play in a 3-5-2? Because that's what they played in Decision Day.
How can they?
That's true. They have no Jacob Glesnes.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that was apart from the obvious talent gap, and that Glesnes is like best in class defender of the year quality in Major League Soccer. There's been a tactical flexibility of the Union all year where Jim has been able to sort of sit back in the cut and be like, am I going to throw the 4-man back line at you in the diamond, or am I going to come at you with that 3-5-2?
Yeah.
I think that card is sort of taken off the table because they don't have a center back. They don't have a fourth center back, basically.
Yeah.
They've got young guys that haven't played at all. They sent out I can't even remember who.
Brendan Craig.
Yeah, Brendan Craig on loan, and he didn't really play at all for Austin. Now he's back. It just doesn't feel like an option anymore.
Doyle has been waiting for a Brendan Craig conversation.
Yeah. So it's a 4-4-2. And I think Heel and Chunkala and Bo, who's shown incredible quality over the last 2 games, the Revs find a way and send it to the third game, and that's where Philly win it.
All right.
All right. Here's some, remember, all these games, MLS Season Pass, Apple TV. We are killing our poor producers here, so we're going to make this quick. Some updates for you. Portland reportedly close to hiring Phil Neville, as you said. Tom Bogert and Paul Tenorio are reporting that one. Tom also reporting that the Rapids are down to 4 candidates. Chris Armas, Chris Little among those finalists. Then Jeff Carlisle today, November 3rd, added that Pa Moduka is a part of that 4-man list. And then I assume Jack Wilshere. I don't know. I actually don't know who the fourth is. But any thoughts on these? We wait till it happens, then talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Phil Neville's underwhelming, but not shocking. I thought Gio Savarese was the right hire when they made the hire. Otherwise, I think a lot of what Portland has done over the last 8 years has been underwhelming. So I'm not shocked that they went with, I guess, what would be considered a safe hand or experience. And then on the Colorado side, I've thought since the beginning that Chris Little would get the job. He's worked in youth development. He's worked in the club. That's what the club should be. And it seemed like he connected with the players over the end of the season. I'm not surprised to see Chris Armas in there. Colorado, if you're not going to spend money like other teams, needs to lean hard tactically. They tried to go possession, I think, and maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. Chris Armas would be the other side of things. But again, a guy who has experience working with young players coming into first teams being sold.
If I was Colorado, I'd be interested in Miles Joseph. I thought he was really good with the Timbers once he took over for Gio Savarese. And, they were not a possession team really, but they were a lot better with the ball under Miles Joseph. And they were able to do it even without Diego Chara. And that's something zero Timbers coaches have ever been able to do, is win without Diego Chara. And they won a few. Obviously, last 2 games of the season cost him his opportunity to get the full-time job, but he feels like someone whose name should be in the mix for this Rapids job.
And I would throw out with the Rapids, I think one of the issues in Robin Fraser's time was they didn't put as many young players on the field as they wanted to, especially ones that they acquired like Ralph Priso. I've talked to Pa Moduka in the past. He feels very strongly about giving young players opportunity, and he thinks MLS is a good spot to do it. Another name that makes sense in this type of conversation.
All right, we will pay close attention to those stories, of course, and cover more when we're back with you next Thursday, assuming something will happen in the meantime. Last question for you. Have you guys won a Ballon d'Or? Anybody here? No? How about 8? Anybody won 8 Ballon d'Ors?
Ocho.
Lionel Messi has, of course, done that and been runner-up 5 times, which is absurd. Probably should have won more if we're being real about his impact and quality. But on Friday, November 10th, we will see Messi celebrate his Ballon d'Or with the Noche d'Or on MLS Season Pass. Inter Miami hosting New York City FC at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can watch on Apple TV.
Rebecca and I were watching, we had YouTube on last night. We were watching some video documentary on something, and then they auto played to like Messi's greatest goals from Barcelona. And we just sat in front of the TV for like another 90 minutes. That's watching Messi highlights.
Easy decision. I thought the coolest part of the Ballon d'Or was that the guys on stage with him were David Beckham, of course, who announced the award, and then Didier Drogba.
Yeah.
So you have 3 now
MLS legends.
Do we give Lionel Messi MLS legend status? He's a Leagues Cup legend, but
he's a potential newcomer of the year once in his career. So
yeah, that's true.
Is he a potential goal of the year scorer? Because that goal he scored against the Red Bulls might be my favorite goal this year.
I don't know. Go vote.
I only
MLSsoccer.com.
respect build up.
And enjoy the MLS Cup playoffs. Second game of these
Houston
best 3 series
Dynamo,
coming
man.
up. We're out of here.
Cool.
Adios.
Oh, Dynamite.